Hello there, and good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. Is really what I am. Kind of forgot that for a minute there. Anyways, we're here to do Into the Progverse, which is the live stream I do on Sunday nights. Tonight's topic is going to be Pink Floyd. So what I'm going to do is we'll be talking all about Pink Floyd tonight, but I'm going to go through the, I got them upside down. I just realized it. So we will turn them right side up. So I have my entire Pink Floyd collection here, all my CDs, including the live album, plus my DVD and plus my tribute album. I also have that. So I think we'll kind of start with the tribute album just because I forgot I even had it. So this is an album, I've had this album for some time. I'm going to say it goes back to the turn of the century, probably. Pink Floyd, a tribute to. And it features, initially when I bought it, I didn't read it all because I didn't have my glasses when I went and bought it. I didn't need them as much back then, but I certainly do now. I didn't see this top line. All I saw was a tribute to Pink Floyd featuring Styx, Chicago, Deep Purple, Yes, Toto, Kiss, and more. It says performed by former members of. So, and some of these aren't even former members, but it doesn't give you a list of who sings what on it. So it's a listening exploit. And I'd probably be better at picking them out now than I was then. The only one I could pick out was Gene Simmons' voice on Shine On You Crazy Diamond. I believe Paul Stanley did one of the songs on here too. I can't remember which one it was. And then there's some other artists that you will see. And I might be able to pick out a few more of them now because I'm a lot more familiar with them. That's the first album I wanted to talk about just because it's a tribute album. It's not a very good one either. The quality isn't that great. It's probably like somebody threw it together. And they've got I think there's 11 tracks: Money, Run Like Hell, Young Lust, Another Brick in the Wall, Have a Cigar, Any Color You Like, Comfortably Numb, Welcome to the Machine, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Breathe, and Us and Them. So they've just taken a greatest collection of hits from Pink Floyd and got some people to sing it. That's all it is, really. And I've never been a big fan of covers or what do you call these tribute stuff? I'm not a huge fan of tribute bands, even, really, unless they're doing their own stuff on the side. Maybe there was a couple of Yes tribute bands that basically, I'm just going to move this over slightly because I got my head cocked the wrong way. I don't really like it. Yeah, so there are some tribute bands out there who do Yes stuff that are, pretty good because they do their own stuff as well. So I don't mind that. But when they're just doing tributes just for the sake of, or just doing covers, like the Foreigner band that's touring now, it has no original members. They're not putting out albums anymore. They're just a cover band. And you're going to see a lot more of this. I think Kiss will be on that list eventually doing that. Maybe Yes. There might be a few other bands that are doing it now that I can't even think of, but there's lots of them out there. And, over the next decade or so, that's all you're going to get is these cover bands doing these tributes to these iconic bands. We would call it avatars, like guys in the band playing the roles of the originals. I wonder if there'll be a Motorhead one, because all the original Motorhead guys are gone. So I assume there'll be a Motorhead one. The Guess Who's another band. It's all different musicians playing the Guess Who stuff. Really, I wouldn't have a problem with them calling themselves Guess Who tribute band or Kiss tribute band or Foreigner tribute band, because then you know what you're getting instead of trying to fool the masses. Because there's still people out there that think they go to see Kiss, they think that's still Ace Frehley playing guitar, or they think that that's still Peter Criss up there on the drums, and it isn't. It hasn't been for decades. But people don't know this because they're just basically, I would call them just people who listen to the stuff on the radio and don't really follow it. So anyways, I digressed. So we're going to go back on topic now. So I'm going to go through my Pink Floyd collection, including my DVD here. So my first album, that's, of course, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. This is the debut album for Pink Floyd. And I'm going to put my glasses on for probably the rest of the video now. So Piper of the Gates of Dawn was released in 1967. This is Pink Floyd's debut. Kind of a very psychedelic cover for sure. I try to get it without getting any reflection here. You've got Roger Waters here. You've got Nick Mason. You've got Richard Wright here in the forefront. And I think this is, you got Richard Wright here in the forefront. You've got, I think that's Nick right behind him. Then Roger Waters here, and this is probably Syd Barrett. So Syd Barrett was the original kind of leader of the band, the front man, if you want. He did most of the writing too. I believe he did maybe all the writing. Just going to check here, see if it tells you anything. Doesn't say. It's just more pictures of them in there. I'm just looking. So it just gives the lyrics for the song. It doesn't really say who wrote any of it. Oh, written by Syd Barrett, yeah. So there was some stuff written by Roger Waters here. I see one song anyways. But most of the stuff is by Syd Barrett. So Syd Barrett, the original. So the band at this point had been around a couple of years, basically doing club scenes and stuff like that, put out this album, their first one. And then Syd Barrett had a mental breakdown, or at least he was close to a mental breakdown, and he wouldn't show up sometimes, or he would and just stand there, and they didn't know what was going on. So they brought in David Gilmour while Syd was in there just to cover in case he didn't show, that kind of thing. So their second album, which is this one, this is Saucer Full of Secrets, much more psychedelic looking, even more so than the original one, but still has that kind of feel to it. But it's starting to kind of move away from that poppy feel that it had on the first album. This one's much more psychedelic. A lot of the stuff here is written by Waters, almost all of it actually, with Mason, Gilmour, and Wright also contributing a little bit of stuff on the album. Rick Wright actually wrote a couple tracks here, Remember the Day and Seesaw. And then you got one, the title track, written by the four members I said. Barrett, Jug Band Blues, which is the last track. And then the other tracks, Let There Be More Light, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, and I believe Corporal Clegg are all written by Waters. Like, it's funny, I'm not a big fan of Roger Waters, but it has nothing to do with his music ability, because I think he's one of the brilliant musicians. He wrote some of the most brilliant tracks in history. It's just his personality and some of the crazy shit that he does that I'm not really crazy about. But other than that, on this album, the stuff that he wrote himself is among my best, I think is among the best stuff on the album. There's no real Gilmour writing here at all, other than he's on the title track, Saucer Full of Secrets. I do like this album cover quite a bit. It's very kind of psychedelic. I have no idea what's even going on in this melange, but I like it. And then you've got, so this is kind of the swan song for Syd Barrett. They kicked him out of the band after this album. He did do the one song, but he wasn't holding it together very well. I think they only brought him in just for the one song. I don't think he did anything else. And he just had basically a mental breakdown, and so he was removed from the band, and Gilmour kind of took over his spot in the band. And him and Gilmour actually knew each other prior to Pink Floyd. They were classmates, and friends, I believe. So they did know each other. It's unfortunate that that happened to Syd Barrett. I think he would have been a very different Pink Floyd if he had stayed alive. Maybe a lot of the stuff that came out in the 70s would never have happened. It's really difficult to say. Maybe Roger Waters wouldn't have kind of started to take over and and really set the direction of the band. And I don't know if that would have been good or bad. It's hard to say because you can't. Hindsight is 2020, but it doesn't always tell you what would have happened in an alternate universe. So this album, Saucer Full of Secrets, released in 1968, their second album. Next up, we got More. So this was actually a movie score from the film More, and all the songs, of course, composed by the members of Pink Floyd for this movie, which I don't even know what this movie's about. To be honest, I've looked into it a couple times, but I think I actually discovered something, but don't remember what it was I discovered. So yeah, it's just a movie score. It sounds kind of jangly that way. It's disconnected in some ways, I guess. It's just disconnected pieces that don't really mean much. So you've got all the lyrics here. Most of this stuff, I believe, was written by Roger Waters. Yeah, just about every track I'm seeing here. Other than the instrumentals, which is the party sequence, the main theme, these were written by all four members. Isabar's Bar, this one was written by all four members too, and then you have More Blues, instrumental, Quicksilver, instrumental, Spanish Piece, instrumental, Dramatic Theme, instrumental. All these were written by everybody in the band, with the exception of the Spanish Piece, which I believe is a acoustic guitar bit that Dave Gilmour wrote. But almost all of the main songs, ones with lyrics in them, are you've got Up the Khyber, also an instrumental by Nick Mason and Richard Bright. This was not written by all of them, but the songs with the lyrics in it were all pretty much written by Roger Waters. So this album I find a bit disconnected. It doesn't feel like really an album. It feels exactly what it is, a movie score. I don't hate it though. It's not bad. There are some interesting stuff going on here on this album. I do like the cover a little bit. It's kind of weird. Kind of reminds me of like it's in the middle of my brain there, and I can't think of what it was. Yeah, it's just like a psychedelic flash where they're using like infrared to record the video. Maybe a little bit like some of that Lord of the Rings, that earlier version of the Lord of the Rings series, where it's almost a cartoon with all this kind of overdubbing and shit that was really kind of not really interesting or kind of weird looking, kind of hard to follow as well. But not a bad album. So this is their third album, I believe. I don't know if I got that right. This was released, looking for the date on it. That's the only problem with these things, and I've said this 100 times, probably will say it again. They just don't tell you any information about the original time period. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is, other than maybe they don't want you to think it's old. Yeah, I think this was in 68 or maybe in 69, but I'm thinking it was in 68. And I'm thinking it was the third one. If it wasn't, then it was the fourth one, and this one would be the third one. This one again, same thing, same problem. No indication as to when it was released. But I think this was actually maybe the third one, Amagama. Amagama was either the third or fourth. So either More was third and Amagama was fourth, or the other way around. I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, it doesn't say anywhere in it. Gotta love that. Oh, 69. So yeah, I think More was third. It was the third, and then Amagama came next. So this is basically two albums in one. Amagama, for those of you who don't know too much about Pink Floyd, and I'm not sure, there probably won't be many people like that, because people that follow Pink Floyd, they love Pink Floyd, you know. Amagama, it's a live album with various songs from their other albums, Astronomy, Domain, Careful with That Axe Eugene, which is a kind of a weird song where he does that screaming. Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, another also from Saucer Full of Secrets, and then A Saucer Full of Secrets. And then you have the studio album, which is really kind of a weird album, but it's not bad. I don't think it's bad. I'm not a huge fan of this album, though, so I don't know as much about it as others, other than the album cover, which I believe is a Hypnosis cover. Very weird. You've got a picture with inside a picture with inside a picture, and each picture, if you look close enough, for those of you who are not familiar with this album, you will see that in each picture, the picture's identical, but there's different people in different spots. That's all it is. It's the same setup. Everything's the same except for the players are all moved around. It's kind of a weird concept, you know. Oh, good morning. Good evening, Jeremy. Welcome. We're talking about the whole Floyd collection that I have. So we're doing a Pink Floyd, my Pink Floyd collection. So all the stuff that I own was put out by Pink Floyd, that good. But this to me, I've never grown accustomed to this particular album. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I just find it very disconcerting. It's even weird by Pink Floyd standards, really, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll give it another try. I've been thinking about that, but not right away. I've got some other stuff I'd rather be doing. So Amagama, their fourth studio album, released in 1969. So now we're getting into the stuff that I am much more familiar with. And to me, this next album kind of begins a run of really good stuff, for my own personal opinion. And I just realized, okay, I think I got these two backwards here. So I'll just fix that here. So this is Atom Heart Mother. Kind of a weird, I don't know what they were trying to achieve here. You got a cow on the cover looking at you. And then you got three more cows looking at you back here in case you're not paranoid enough, right? So Atom Heart Mother, when I initially bought this, was one of the first when I started collecting Floyd. So by the time this album came out, I had Animals, I had Dark Side of the Moon, I had the tribute album, and I think that was it. I think those are the only three. So this was kind of my fourth one. I got this maybe 4 years ago. And of course, it's just basically pictures of cows, which I'm not sure what they were trying to get at there. Now, they've shit all over this album, to be honest with you. The members, they don't like it. They think it's terrible. There's nothing about it they like. This was released in 1970, if I'm correct. I just don't see any indication of that anywhere. It's actually not a bad, the booklet is quite nice. Oh, look at this. They've got some Ranunculacea in there. I never noticed that before. It's a plant where the stem goes to the middle of the leaf instead to the edge. Very peppery tasting type thing, really. Anyways, this features, of course, no Syd Barrett. He's long gone by this point in time. It's a kind of a different album. So you got one track on the front side, Atom Heart Mother, and its suites or pieces, if you prefer. And then you got a bunch of other stuff on the other side. It's kind of psychedelic, very pastoral. It's a very pastoral album. And I quite like it, actually. I like the whole thing. I actually prefer the backside, If Summer, Fat Old Sun, and Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast. I do like those quite a bit. The front one, I'm not as into it as I probably should be, but I do like this album a lot. This is an album that I was using for about a year there. I was using it pretty much nightly as my go to sleep album. I would put it on. It's very relaxing. There's something about it. There's a lot of quirky noises, a lot of weird stuff going on here. I don't really listen to it as much now because I've got so much other stuff to listen to, but initially I did, and it is probably one of my 5 favorite Pink Floyd albums. So there you go. Atom Heart Mother, their 5th studio album. What do I think of Syd Barrett? Well, to be honest with you, I never followed Pink Floyd because of Syd Barrett. I didn't even know he existed until I started following Pink Floyd. my friend said, well, go listen to their first studio album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Very poppy album. I don't think he's a bad singer. And people have said he's brilliant, but they also said that about Nirvana's Kurt Cobain, and I never liked him much. And I'm not sure about Sid because I didn't follow him much, so I don't know too much about him. I'm not a connoisseur of these type of people. Another one that kind of reminds me of this is Jim Morrison from The Doors. People go on and on at length about brilliance and stuff, and to me, they're just strange individuals. But whatever you like, that's fine with me. So we're going to go on to the next album. And I may have gotten these two backwards, but I don't think so. I think this was first. I do love this cover quite a bit. This is really good. What I mean, back inside of the album. The cover is very strange. I remember reading something about this, and I can't quite put my thoughts together on what it was. So this is Pink Floyd's Metal, their sixth studio album. I believe it was released in 1971. But of course, I'm not going to get any of that information on the album. Why would they want to tell you that, right? But I believe it was in 1971. Again, most of this stuff, the first song, One of These Days, is an instrumental. All four members getting credit for that here. I do like this picture. This makes sense that it was released in 71 because this is very similar to this. The way they look here is very similar to the way they look in this video, which I'll get to probably right after this, actually. So you got Fearless here. Waters Gilmore collaboration here. Stan Tropaz, this is a Roger Waters song. Seamus, written by the entire band. Echoes, also written by the entire band. Now, Echoes is an absolutely classic, phenomenal song. To me, it is almost a poster child for Pink Floyd as a band. Such a good song. This is another one of those albums that I was listening to a bit as a night album to listen to. I like using Pink Floyd. It's very relaxing. Another band I used for is Eloy. Sometimes I'll use Hawkwind, but I think Pink Floyd is the better one of all these guys. Yeah, you're right. This is one of their better covers. And it's had something to do with a toilet bowl and something that was in it. I can't remember what it was. I meant to look this up before I came on air because I remember thinking that I remember reading something about that, and then I wanted to be able to talk about it, but I didn't do that. So yeah, fantastic cover. Echoes is absolutely brilliant. The rest of the album, I'm not sure about yet. I actually didn't initially like this album, so I didn't play it that much. So it's still fairly new to me, but I believe it came out in 1971. So there it is. That was, Metal. Sorry, I always forget the name. I don't know why. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this because I believe this came out at roughly the same time, maybe a little bit after. So I think it was later after they did this. They did this. This is really good. This may be my favorite Floyd thing. Basically, it's a two-part thing. Yeah, you're right. It was 71. This one, I believe, was 82, this DVD. Or no, it was late 71. So also the same year as Metal. I watched this in its entirety, was gripped by it. It's kind of a feature film, I guess. They're showing how they set up and what they did, and there's a little bit of talking going on and them eating breakfast and stuff during the making of this concert. So in the feature film part, they do have brain damage here. And where is it? I can't find it now. Us and Them. Those two tracks weren't put out at that time. So they must have been add-ons to this video when they put it together. That's my only thing. It's quite good. The part in the So the concert is absolutely top of the line, fantastic. I can't say enough about how good it is. So you've got that Pompeii intro, which is just a bunch of noises, which is totally normal for Pink Floyd. And then you've got Echoes Part 1. Really well done. This is absolutely killer. The music, the sound is really good. And you've got this kind of harmonizing vocal part with David Gilmour and Richard Wright, which I think is probably my favorite vocal harmony of anything by Pink Floyd. I thought it was fantastic. I wish they could have just done more of it, but it was great. So that's Echoes Part 1. And then Careful with That Axe, Eugene. I believe this is the song that Roger Waters does the screaming in. He does this absolutely horrendously loud and obnoxious scream, which just is so memorable. Really good. Then you got Saucer Full of Secrets, which is a song that I like quite a bit as well. One of These Days, another good track. Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, really good, really well done. And then you got Echoes Part 2, just again, I can't say enough about how good it was. The funny part is that it's not really what you would expect from a live Pink Floyd album, because they don't have that big, huge stage with all this stuff going on. It's just them in a coliseum in the middle of a fields doing this stuff for the most part. There is a little bit more on Echoes 2 at the end, where it looks like they're in a bit of a stage setup, but because I think it's at night by this time. Yeah, it's really good. This is fantastic. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend it. Or if you don't really like videos, there is also a DVD. There's also a CD of the same thing, which is probably my next purchase. Okay, so next up, another movie score. I can't remember the name of the movie. They had a problem with the people that produced the movie, so instead of calling it the movie score for that movie, they called it Obscured by Clouds because they didn't want to give them any kind of credit of any kind. I'm not sure why. This is a kind of an interesting picture here, which comes with the album. The front is typical Floyd. Not much different than this. It's kind of obscured, eh? So this is the soundtrack, Obscured by Clouds. So my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding is that they were working on Dark Side of the Moon at the time, because this is their 7th album. And then this movie, somebody asked them to make the movie score for this movie. So they did that as an aside from Dark Side of the Moon. I actually quite like this. I wish I knew what the movie was called. Maybe it says somewhere here. This is a Hypnosis cover, not surprising. Of course, I'm looking here, music from La Valley. That was the name of the movie, La Valley. So they did not call it that, though. They ended up calling it Obscured by Clouds. Not sure why they chose that title. Well, there was a song called Obscured by Clouds, so maybe they just picked one out of the group here. 10 tracks in total. A little bit of that same thing going on as it was going on in More, where you've got these disconnected pieces and some unfinished pieces, but I really quite like some of the tracks on here. So the first 2 tracks, Obscured by Clouds and When You're In, were both instrumentals written. The first one, Obscured by Clouds, by Waters and Gilmour, and the other one by all 4 members. The next song is Burning Bridges. Richard Wright and Roger Waters wrote this one. The gold, it's written by Gilmour and Waters. So much more group-oriented writing going on here. Gilmour and then Waters on What's on the Deal. Mudmen, which is an instrumental by Wright and Gilmour. And then you've got David Gilmour writing Childhood's End here. Free For by Waters, and then Stay by Wright and Waters. So yeah, very kind of a mixture of everybody getting in on this. The only one that doesn't really do much is Nick Wright, but Nick Mason doesn't write anything except for on the instrumentals. He contributes to at least one of them anyways. I think this is pretty solid, a pretty solid album for a soundtrack. I think it's pretty good. I'm not a soundtrack person other than the Star Wars soundtrack, but I can't listen to the Star Wars soundtrack. It has to have the movie with it, or else I won't watch it, listen to it. So yeah, so pretty good for a soundtrack, but not 100% in love with it. But I think it's good. It's an album I sometimes go to. I do go to it on occasion, I will admit it. So that's their 7th studio album. So of course that brings us to their masterpiece, which is their 8th studio album. Imagine it took them 8 albums to get to their masterpiece, but they did a masterful job. This album is pretty much perfection. All the songs interconnect with each other in such a way that it just flows. Like they use all the noises to tie everything together. Just absolutely brilliant, this album, I think. One of the most brilliant albums ever put together, I think. Some people would say this isn't even a progressive rock album, but I beg to differ there. So there are 10 tracks on here, of course. The cover is iconic. Most people know what that is. Even people who are not even Floyd fans will recognize that cover. Pretty much. So Mason wrote the first track, Speak to Me, and then Breathe was Waters, Gilmore, and Wright. And then it's pretty much a mixture of most everybody here, but I think Waters is probably the dominant character, and he wrote Money, which is one of the big tracks, and Time was written by all 4 of them. Those are probably the 2 big tracks. Us and Them, pretty big track too, Waters and Wright. I found Wright wrote a lot of the stuff earlier on too. He was involved with a lot of them. So this came out in 1973, their 8th studio album. Absolutely near perfection. I don't want to say too much about it because, there isn't really much to add. You can find, if you punch in Dark Side of the Moon, you will find 30 or 40 pages of just stuff on this album. There's no shortage of stuff on this album, but it's a brilliant album, so I understand why. Anyways, that was their 8th studio album. Next up, some would say this is even better. Also needs a cleaning, I just noticed. Wish You Were Here. I don't really like this cover too much. Yeah, it's a guy on fire, but I don't like this part here. It's almost like it's like a margin. It isn't, but it looks like a margin to me. This has some of their best tracks on it, though. This came out in 75, so they had a couple of years delay before this came out. I think they were a bit burned out when this came out, but they did a brilliant job here. So Shine On You Crazy Diamonds parts 1 and 2 bookend the album. Fantastic tunes. Just want to look here and see if they give the words for these things. This is a little bit more Waters dominated, but the other members are still writing here, but he does most of the writing. Gilmore and Wright doing some of the writing as well. Now, do they sing? They don't give you they never give you a list of who sings what. That's the thing I never liked about them. So this, of course, came out in 1975, recorded at Abbey Road Studios. Some people consider this to be Floyd's biggest album. Many people will cite this as their favorite. I like it. It's a top 5 for me, for sure. The problem with this album for me, and I think it's more logistics than anything else, I think it's because each of these, I never had the album for the longest time. Like I didn't get it till maybe a couple of years ago. So most of these tracks were known to me from other albums or from the radio. So by the time I got the album, I never really listened to it as a whole, if that makes any sense. I had each of them bits and pieces from different things that I've been listening to. Welcome to the Machine. My friend had that on his answering service. Shine On You Crazy Diamonds 1 and 2 I got on my tribute here with Gene Simmons. That kind of was where it kind of took on in life for me. Wish You Were Here, of course, is the title track of the album, and Have a Cigar, which was probably the one track on here, even though I knew it, I didn't know it that well. But so for me, it was probably a choppy album because most of the songs I had heard separately. They weren't really part of an album for me until I got it. And so I never got into the album. I got into the tracks individually. It's the only Floyd album like that for me. But this came out in 75. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I agree with all those things you just said. Dark Side of the Moon, I love it. Wish You Were Here. That's a great album too. Gilmour, to me, Pink Floyd doesn't sound like Pink Floyd without David Gilmour. That's just the way I feel about it. You can say all the wonderful things you want about Roger Waters' writing and his genius ability to put stuff together, but I still think that Gilmour is the guy that kind of makes Pink Floyd sound the way Pink Floyd is. The album, I've heard that. I've heard that this album was written about Syd Barrett. It makes sense if you look at the opening track, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and it finishes with that. Yeah, and Wish You Were Here. That these songs all kind of make sense that they were talking about him, but I think they talked about him in different venues on different albums too, not just here, but I don't think they ever really kind of forgot him. I think, and if I'm wrong here, but I think Roger Waters kind of feels guilty about it in some ways. I don't know if that's true. It appears that way to me, but it doesn't mean that it's true, but that's just the way I feel. So yeah, so that was their 9th studio album. Now we move on to my favorite Pink Floyd album. This is kind of the album that kind of started it for me. I bought this album. The first album I owned by them was Dark Side of the Moon. I bought it at a yard sale for $1, and it sat in my drawer for forever. I said, yeah, I'll buy it. It's only $1, and then I never got around to listen to it because I wasn't a Pink Floyd fan. The Wall kind of put me off for about 20 years on them. I'm not really sure why. I just never liked The Wall at first. I didn't like it at all. But then I got Dark Side of the Moon, so I had it. And I was somewhere and saw this album for, I don't know how many, what's $8 or $9. They say, I really like this cover a lot. So I went and bought it. And I got this the same year that I got Rush's Snakes and Arrows. So I was playing those two and Songs for the Wood. I got all 3 of them. I was playing them all fairly regularly. And I thought, how good is this album? And the other thing about this album, it's absolutely killer. Heavy album, like probably their heaviest album as far as getting close to that metal sound, right? Hello, Picus. Nice to have you. Picus Burton. That's an interesting name. My dad's best friend was Donnie Burton, not the one from the Cranberries. That was Donnie Burton's son. But definitely love this album. There's everything on this album is great. I love all 5 of the tracks here. Dogs is probably my favorite. I think that's probably common for most people that like this album. It's a bit of a murky album. It would be nice if they would do it. I think they have done a version that's cleaned it up a lot and it sounds a lot better. But I like the cover here. It's kind of, it feels almost Soviet-like, right? Yeah. Just all the tracks on here so strong. This came out in 1977. So a couple years after Wish You Were Here. Most people that I know either have this, Wish You Were Here, or Dark Side of the Moon as their favorite albums. Most of the people I know. There's some that I know that like The Wall as well, but I'm not one of them. Well, I don't love The Wall as like I do these ones. So this is a great album. Their 10th studio album. Fantastic. Next up, of course, is The Wall. Cover's kind of plain, not really great, but not bad. It's a double album for those of you who don't know that. I can't imagine anybody who follows Pink Floyd wouldn't know that. So it has like a lot of tracks on here. I think that kind of hurt it for me. This is also the album that Richard Wright, I think he was kicked off after the album or just before the album. It's kind of a weird album. Got a lot of weird characters on it. Everything is written in like handwriting, so it's a little bit different that way. And the whole album was written by, of course, Roger Waters. That's not something that's going to be new. Came out in 1979, same year as Supertramp's Breakfast in America, two great albums for that year. I didn't get into this, though, at first. I didn't like it. I found it boring, to be honest, kind of almost poppy in a way. I know that's not going to sit well with some people, but I think it would have been, I think other people have said this, and I think they're right. It would have been better as a single album. Could have cut a lot of fat off of it. And some of the songs that I love on here, like Run Like Hell or Comfortably Numb, those songs could have kept them and cut some of the bacon out of here, and it would have been a better album for me. I have grown to like it a little bit more over the last couple of years, and I think a lot of that has to do with my overview of Pink Floyd as a whole. When I got this album, this was my only Pink Floyd. I never actually bought it. I heard it. This was my only interaction with Pink Floyd, and I didn't really like it, so I figured there's no point in listening anymore. It's just a bunch of noise. That was the thing I always thought. Pink Floyd, not really a rock band, I thought. They just make a lot of racket, make a lot of sounds. But I've changed my whole opinion about them with the other albums, and so those other albums have changed my opinion, so that I now look at this differently and hear it differently than I used to. I think that's the reason why my opinion about it has changed. I don't hate it. I don't even dislike it anymore. I kind of like it, actually, in a way. It's an album I'd sometimes go to, which is, if you told me that 40 years ago, I would have said, no, there's no chance of that. But there it is. That's the 11th studio album. Yeah, you're right. I agree with both of what you just said there. Or the two of you said. I didn't really love The Wall, but it has some tracks on it I do like. Comfortably Numb, probably that, and Run Like Hell are probably my two favorite songs on that album. I do like them. Mother is okay as well. Another Brick in the Wall, not a bad track as well. So there are some good stuff on that album. Probably enough to make a great single album, but maybe not quite enough to make a great double album. Yeah, you're probably right, Jeremy. I think that probably a gateway album for sure. But came out in 1979, so kind of also the end of an era, really. up until that point. By this time, this album came out and was out there. Many people were touting Floyd as one of the top 2 or 3 greatest rock bands in history, with Zeppelin and the Beatles being the other two. At that time period, that's the way I saw it too, other than the fact that I found Pink Floyd, basically, I didn't even think of them as a rock band, but a lot of people did. They kind of grew slowly for me. Like it took 20, 25 years for me to really recover from The Wall to get into them. So the next album out is The Final Cut, which came out about 5 years later. I think it's 4 years, or was it 5 years? Maybe it was longer. It says 83, but I almost felt like it was further, like a longer part. Like I thought it was like 85. It clearly says 83 here, so we'll go with that. To me, this is just another Wall. Just some of these songs just sound like songs that weren't good enough for The Wall. And The Wall was already too bloated, as you asked me, and these are just more bloated songs. I never really cared for this. It sounds too much dominated by Roger Waters. And I think, some people have gone on to say that this is basically a Roger Waters solo album. But I don't like any of Roger Waters' solo albums, so that would make sense that I don't like this either, if that's what people view it as. Album cover is not too bad. I don't think it's great, though. So, and by this time, if I'm correct, I don't think Richard Wright was with the band for this album. I think this is the only one of up until this point. This was their 12th studio album. I don't think he was with them anymore. They kicked them out after The Wall, and I'm pretty sure he was not on this album. Performed by Pink Floyd, David Gilmour, Nick Mason, and Roger Waters, with Michael Kamen on piano, Andy Brown on Hammond organ. Yeah, so looks like he wasn't on this album. Another reason why I might not like it that much. To me, it's one of their weaker albums. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the solo work of any of these guys, to be honest with you. If I had gunned ahead to choose an album from one of the solo guys, I would probably choose Gilmour's. I think because of his guitar ability, it's pretty hard to not like that. Okay, next up, jump ahead a little bit. Roger Waters is out of the band, which at that point in time I would be happy with. A lot of people kind of shit on this album, including Roger Waters. This was produced by Bob Ezrin, David Gilmour. Most of the stuff, I believe, lyrically was written by David Gilmour's wife. If I'm not mistaken, somebody will correct me. And I think that's what it is. And I believe, just looking here, yeah, Richard Wright was back in the band for this album. This album came out in 1987. I actually like this quite a bit. Tony Levin playing bass on here too. Maybe that's part of the reason why I like it so much. I just found this, lyrics aside, yeah, the lyrics I don't think are as good as Roger Waters, and that'd be tough to beat, wouldn't it be? Bob Ezrin did write on some of this stuff too, I believe, as well. And I could be wrong here, but maybe he didn't. Maybe this wasn't. Maybe his wife didn't write on this one. I thought it was, but it's not the lyrics here that really. I think this sounds very Pink Floydish, more Pink Floydish than some of the Pink Floydish stuff. I think it's just an absolutely nice cover. I like this. It's kind of weird, strange, which is typical of Pink Floyd. Most of their album covers are kind of strange, but I like them. They're inventive. Always signaling something. I'm not sure what this is signaling, but this is A Momentary Lapse of Reason. This came out in 1987 in September. I think it's a good album. I had it in my playlist. It's the last Floyd album I had in my playlist. I think it's really good. Can't say enough good stuff about it. Almost all the tracks on here. A New Machine Parts 1 and 2 I like quite a bit as well. But the album is just so Floyd sounding and so dominated by Gilmour's guitar and even a little bit of Richard Wright's keyboards. I just think it's a really strong album myself. So that's their 13th studio album, or is that their 12th? Yeah, that was their 13th. Sorry. I lost track there for a minute. So their next album out is, for me, I have this one, Live at Nebworth. I think this is really good. I've come to like Pink Floyd live. I probably should have went and seen them. I had chances to, but I just couldn't handle their music at the time. So this one the book seems to have disappeared on me. Oh, the book's in the wrong spot, that's why. So it's a 1 CD, features Richard Wright, Nick Mason, David Gilmour here. The three of them playing together. It's 1990, so it's been some time at this point since His Majesty left the band. But this is really good, clear sounding live stuff. I don't know who they had playing bass here because they don't say much. Just see if I could find it. It's got David Gilmour guitars and vocals, Nick Mason drums and percussion, Richard Wright keyboards, backing vocals. Oh, Guy Pratt played bass here. And then they had a whole bunch of other people on stage singing the backing stuff, and I think there was actually even maybe a orchestra of some sort here too. It's a really good sounding album. The tracks they did were really good. They took a nice selection from their album cuts. So you got Shine On Crazy Diamonds, 1 to 5, which is to me the full album, I guess. The Great Gig in the Sky, really good. I really like the vocal performance of the girl that does the song here, the opera voice, fantastic. I liked her on, I think it's the same woman too, who did it on Dark Side of the Moon too, really good. Wish You Were Here, of course. Sorrow, I'm not sure where Sorrow came from. Is that all the way back to Saucer Full of Secrets, or somewhere back there? Money, of course. Comfortably Numb, From the Wall, and Run Like Hell. So my two favorite Wall tracks are on here. So you can see why I like this so much. All the stuff that they played in the live concert are all songs that I really quite like by them. Next up, sorry, it's trying to fall out here, this. So we're down to the final 2 studio albums. Well, actually, the final studio album that I have. I don't have Endless River. I've just never seen it. I probably would buy it if I seen it. It hasn't gotten great reviews from people, so I'm not rushing out to get it. But this album I like quite a bit too, Division Bell. I kind of wish that David Gilmour had been more prolific in making albums. I feel like he could have made 3 or 4 more albums as Pink Floyd, and it would have been great. This one came out in 94. So I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure this might be the album that his wife did the writing on. I'm just looking for it. And yeah, Richard Wright's on this, of course. Gilmour. This is another Bob Ezrin released album. Just looking to see who played bass on this. Guy Pratt. So he was on the Nebworth, and then he was on this as well. Nice little kind of picture here I like. You're right, Tony Levin, it rules, man. He is such a good bass player. I think he's with no, it's not. I was thinking of somebody else. I apologize. I was thinking of Castellato. It's not, though. Yeah, I was just looking to see who wanted to see who wrote the lyrics for the songs. They're not giving up anything. Yeah, I think it's his wife. I think this was the one that his wife wrote some of the lyrics on. Lyrics are okay. Again, lyrics are okay. Not bad, but another very sounding Floyd album because of David Gilmour. I think he really does add he is the final good part of Pink Floyd, that part that really people think of as Floyd. It's his voice too. His voice and his guitar really make up a huge chunk of that Floyd sound. Yes, Richard Wright adds a big part to it as well. But you could, and as much as I like Mason, and I don't even mind Roger Waters' bass play, bass and the drums could be kind of changed up and maybe it would still sound Floydish. I don't really know. But I think Wright and Gilmour really add that noise. And to me, that makes perfect sense, because if you go back to the final cut, which doesn't have Richard Wright on it, this doesn't sound as Floydish. To me, this sounds like another Roger Waters solo album. Like, I've listened to his solo albums. I know what they sound like. Yeah, this is great. I like this a lot from 94. I do like the cover quite a bit too, like 2 opposing views. Yeah, absolutely. Great. So the last album that I want to talk about is just this one. It's a greatest hits. It's called Relics. I like the cover. It's very kind of time machine-ish, journey to the center of the earth type, kind of reminds me of those type of things. So this has Arnold Layne, Interstellar Overdrive, See Emily Play, Remember a Day, Paint Box, Julia's Dream, Careful with That Axe, Eugene, Cirrus Minor, The Nile Song, Biding My Time, and Bike. So some a little bit more obscure tracks than you normally would get from a greatest hits by these guys. So really, other than where is it? I'm looking here, Interstellar. Well, no, not that one. Other than Careful with That Axe, Eugene, the rest of these tracks are kind of darker, deeper cuts, songs that you don't normally hear from Pink Floyd, but still not bad for a kind of a greatest hits album. Came out in '95, so just after Division Bell, kind of a greatest hits, I guess. And so that's it. That's my entire Pink Floyd collection, down to every album, even the greatest hits. Yeah, I don't know what album is that, Pikers. What album is the Nile Song originally on, or is it just something they threw together on the Relics? That would be interested to know, because I'm pretty sure I've seen this before, but I just don't know which album it's on. Could it be on one of the scores? Maybe. Don't remember seeing it on any other album. I'm just looking quickly through here to see if I spot it somewhere else. Can't imagine it would be on the wall, so I wouldn't even look there. I know it's not on any of the big three. Obscured by Clouds. Nope, I don't see it there either. Nope. I feel like I know it from a different album, though. Oh, it was for a movie. Okay, it's on a soundtrack for a movie. Okay, so it's just it's just like a B-side add-on, like what Jethro Tull did with the I can't think of their name of that album that they have all of their bits and pieces on, their songs that were never on albums, B-sides, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's one of those days. So I was wondering, because I just never had seen it on any other, some of these tracks I never seen on any of their other albums, so I didn't know it was a soundtrack. So Relics itself is the soundtrack, or just that song? I'm going to see if it says anything on the album as soon as I get to it. Digitally remastered, the copyrights of the sound recording, it's owned by EMI. No, yeah. Some of these songs, of course, have been on other albums for sure. That's a certainty. I've seen them. Let's see if it's what it says in here. Shows all these kind of stuff on this. It's kind of a neat brass type instruments, like you might see in Time Machine and stuff like that. There's no words here, so I mean, some of these songs are from some are on older albums. A lot of them actually on older albums. I'm just looking for the song he gave me. I'm looking for where is it? Interstellar Core Drive? No, that's not it. Yeah, I don't see it. The Nile Song. Oh, so maybe it was on. I don't want to knock all my albums flying, so I'm trying to be careful here. I'm bad for that. I hate to say it. Let me look here. Nope. Yeah, it is. It's on this soundtrack, on More. Yeah, that's why I didn't know it, because I haven't listened to this album much. So it was originally on so all this stuff on Relics is from the 60s, pretty much from the 60s. I don't think there's anything on here that wasn't from the 60s. Interesting take on this album. Anyways, that's my entire discography from Pink Floyd, including my DVD as well. I really like their stuff. I wonder if anybody has any suggestions for for live albums by them other than the Nebworth, which I like quite a bit. And so I have that and this Pompeii. There must be other stuff by them that's worth buying too, but I just don't know what it is. So I've never been a big fan of live stuff until the last couple of years, and then I started collecting some live DVDs and discovered that I liked them quite a bit. Before that, I basically only had my Kiss collection and my Who collection, and they made up like about 8 of the albums of the 9 that I had, right? Yeah, so I'm happy that people showed up and had conversation with me tonight. It's always good. Yeah, Kiss Alive is my favorite live album, bar none. But I do have some of the Kisstree. I have one of the Kisstree ones, which is quite good too, for a DVD. But I prefer the live Kiss Alive. Kiss Alive 2 isn't as great an album, I don't think. It has this kind of a blary sound to it. I don't know if that makes sense. Kind of sounds like they've overamped it a bit too much, trying to give it more of a loud sound. Kiss Alive has a loud sound, but it doesn't have that same effect that Kiss Alive 2 does. And I can't believe I'm talking about Kiss on a Pink Floyd show. So anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed this video. I will probably be doing, I'm thinking of, I've been doing a run for my playlist for next weekend. I wanted to do a little bit talk about my Wobbler collection now that I've completed it and have all 5 of their studio albums. I was going through them through the week. I may do a Wobbler collection for next week's episode of Into the Progverse. Yeah, I think that'd be interesting for me anyways. I hope other people would like it too. It's always a good thing. But they have 5 studio albums. All of them are top notch. You don't have a bad album. So we'll probably do that next week. Anyways, I thank you both and everybody else for watching the video. That's much appreciated. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And if you want, you can hit the you've already left your talks, but if you want to leave a message, you can leave those as well in the comment section. So anyways, I'm going to end the streak. It's over an hour now, and we'll end the video, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Into the Progverse Live. So take care and have yourself a good one. Goodbye.